Hello, lovers. This is Heidi Raquel with your June soul message. How the hell are you doing? It's been really intense, huh? Okay, if you're watching this on Instagram, first announcement. I have just added to my link in my bio. When you go to the link, swipe to the left, there's now YouTube links or link to my YouTube channel, and you can watch the full video right there on Instagram without leaving. So that is... and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. So that's a great find this morning, which is so perfect for everything that I'm going to talk about. So this one is called The Great Purge. And it's going to be a little bit of a batten down the hatches, white knuckling it, sitting on your hands kind of deal. But there is a whole lot of positivity I'm feeling coming out of it, but it's the kind of thing where it's going to get worse before it gets better. So the image that I was shown was a tornado, and the tornado comes in, sweeps the home clear. The only thing that's left is the studs. You know, it's taken all the way down to the foundation, to the structure. And anything that is not latched down, bolted down, is going to get tossed. And it feels like it's without your consent and without your permission. So this is massive ego territory that we're talking about, because we've talked about this before, you know, the clean slate, like we've gone into this energy before, but this is a different level than I have ever seen before, than I have ever experienced. It's on such a deep level that it's like, it's in the bone marrow of who you think you are, right? So, you know, the thinking, the mind, all of that is Mercury. And so let me just go back a little bit and give you a tiny bit of astrology. Mercury retrograde started yesterday. I'm recording this on the 30th. So May 29th. The setup started on the 14th. So we've already been in it for 2 weeks. The midpoint is on June 10th, which is the new moon this month. And it ends on, now I'm going to blank the dates. It's at the end of, or very beginning of July, I think is when it ends. And then we have the integration phase until, like, I forget if it's like the 8th or the 9th of July, somewhere in there. Sandwiched on top of that, we have eclipse season. So we already had one last week, May 26th, full moon in, I believe it was, Sagittarius. It was a full moon lunar eclipse, super blood moon. I mean, does it get any crazier? And so when we've got Mercury retrograde, it's all about, this is why I left my half painted nails. Yellow is the color of Mercury. This is kind of where we are. We're in like the bardo. We're in the in-between stage, right? I'm like, I'm just going to leave it because this is the place, right? So Mercury is the thinking mind. It's communication, it's travel, it's technology, it's all those things. When Mercury goes into retrograde, it's like the disintegration to reintegration process. It's like everything has to fall apart to come back together. So it has that sense of like getting worse before it gets better. And then we've got eclipse season, which is, you know, every time we have an eclipse, it's like the lights go out. But what's interesting and what I felt last week in the eclipse is, and if you want to do the healing that I did for that, it's also available. The link to the recording to purchase is also in my Instagram bio. Or you can just go to, no, it's not on my website. Things I have to work on for this, the rest of this year. But so what I felt last week at the eclipse was like this glitch in the matrix. It's almost like for a second it went out and you can see through, like, you know, all the stuff behind the scenes. So that's kind of what we have going on. It's like the Mercury and the and the eclipse season layered over the top of it. But I'm not an astrologer. I just peek over there because I like to see like, okay, what is the energy that I'm feeling? And then I like to go and look and go, okay, how is that pairing? And it just cracks me up every time when I'm like, wow, I'm just feeling this in the energy. And then I lean over and the astrology is actually speaking and saying the same story. This is nuts. So what I'm feeling back to the tornado is like we're being taken all the way down to the studs. And this is heavy, heavy, heavy ego territory. I'm talking about like the stuff that is so automatic for you that you don't even realize that it isn't who you are. Like it's so identified that you think it actually is who you are. So it's the stuff that you have like complete grip on and are not even aware is running in the background of your mind, running in the programming of who you are and how you show up, right? Which is perfect. It's almost as if, the powers that be out in the ether are planting these planets in this way and in these conjunctions and in these trines and all of it to help liberate us. And, we couldn't be at a more polarized time in society. And it's like, the eclipse and the Mercury retrograde is like glitching everything out to try to get us to release from our death grip on what we think we know for sure. I said in the blog, which is on my website and also linked in the Instagram bio, the more that you know a thing, now I can't even remember what the sentence was that I said. The more that you know, the more that you label a thing, the less that you know it. See, I can't even remember my own quotes because, this is Mercury, like language is arrested. And that happens when this polarization thing, right? It's like we're labeling every little thing. And it's like, well, if you say that word, then that means that you're on this side. And, because it's like we want to know a thing. But what's so tragic about that is when you label something, when it's like, okay, that's a tulip. Okay, then you're no longer relating to it as anything else. You've given it shape and form and you've defined it, you've limited it. So that tulip can only be a tulip, whatever definition that has for you. It can't open up and be your grandmother. It can't open up and be a symbol or a sign of something else, right? It's like that labeling just shrinks everything down and collapses it, which brings me to another thing I've been feeling really for a couple weeks, which now I'm realizing is totally synced up with the setup phase of Mercury retrograde. There is this crazy combination that doesn't even make sense of how it's possible of being squeezed and also being stretched at the very same time. It's like we're being squeezed and wrung out so that all the bullshit that we're hanging on to that we think we know, has to go. And that's the ego death, right? We have to let go of who we think we are and what we think we know and all of that stuff, what we're like so innately attached to, and open up to what's happening. And that's the stretching. It's like we're also being asked to grow at the very same time and become something else. So it's just completely and totally wild. And I'll give you an example that is happening for me personally that is, on the lighter side of it, but it's still rubbing up against my ego. So I joined doTERRA in December and was so excited to bring essential oils and all of this into my practice. And it's been amazing. I love them. No regrets with that. But I had a situation with my upline that was not supportive. And so I put in a request to the company to get changed to another team so that I could get support. That was 3 months ago. And I followed up 4 times and no response whatsoever. So I know if I'm going to be congruent with my integrity, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't align. So I have to pull away from it. And I'm now, as of June 1st, switching over to Young Living. Well, that rubs against like all my stuff because I want to, even if you just look at the polarization of the two companies, like I want to be able to be on one side or the other, right? And now, like, all of that is chafing inside of me and going, no, you don't get to do that. This company might have this good thing and this bad thing, and this company might have this good thing and this bad thing. And how can you like land in the middle somewhere, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch over to Young Living, let my doTERRA account go inactive and see what happens over here. And once the 6 months has passed and I can switch over, I'll get my team changed without any hassle. And then I'll see, like, do I want to go back? Do I want to stay? Do I want to, how do I want to work it? But when you're talking about like business decisions and and spirit like specifically led me there, and I'm like, wait a minute, I do channel writing for a living for people, and I did channel writing for myself before I made that decision. And spirit completely guided me there. And then I have to come back and go, wait a minute, what just happened there? Was that a glitch? Did I miss something? And I asked my guides, what the hell were you doing? Why did you send me over there if this wasn't, where I was supposed to be? Are you ready for the answer? Because we are not guided to what keeps us safe and comfortable and easy. We are guided towards the places that bring us the lessons, that tear us all the way down, that make us see what it is that we don't want to see about ourselves. So it's almost comical. Like, you have to laugh because it's just so perfect. And, it's like already I'm discovering all these beautiful things that Young Living offers that doTERRA doesn't. And so, it's a both and. And, it's totally nuts. And so I'm like, oh, okay, yes, I needed to learn that lesson. I needed to be let down by the person that I signed up with so that I could find my core and say, yeah, okay, that doesn't work for me. And I'm willing to leave the company because of it, because it doesn't align with my integrity. So I'm going to move over here. And will there or could there be an ego death on the other side where I end up having, not having, but do I end up coming back? And how does that affect my customers, my clients, all of it, my business? It's absurd. So, I go into more of that personal story because it gives an example of where we are. And, it's both and. It's checking under the covers. It's looking in the back of the closet. This is like, I talked about a clean slate, I think it was in January. It's like, yeah, we got to clean out the attic. We got to clean out the basement and all of that. But now we're in the place where it's like, okay, no, it's not just about cleaning out the basement. It's about getting all the way into the relics in your basement. Like, I'm talking about the stuff that's like deeply attached to old stuff, right? Like, one example that I gave in the blog is the old wedding dress that's like stuffed in the way back of the garage. That's like one of my personal ones. It's like we have to let go of these things that are connected to old versions of ourselves, because the more that we hang on to something, our energy field it's infinite, but it's also finite. We can only hold so much at one particular time. So if you have a circle and half of that circle, because it is like our energetic auric field, if you have, half of the circle is held up or, kind of imprisoned by old thoughts, ideas, beliefs, identifications, then you only have access to the other half of that circle. So if the more that you can let go of, the more space comes in. And I'm really feeling that need for space, to give ourselves the space to change, to transform, to become something totally different. It's like identity. My daughter, has dyed her hair, really dark and then red. And now, like, in a couple days, she's going to go back to blonde. It's like this kind of stuff where it's like just a complete, shift of things. So let me just check my notes here as I'm rambling on. So it's calling us into a deeper level of questioning and inquisition, of ourselves, like questioning what are the things that we assume automatically. What are the things that we do automatically without questioning it, and start bringing in some of that questioning and just going, okay, what if I actually turned this thing completely upside down? What would it look like then? it's kind of like flipping the hourglass over and kind of looking at it from a completely different perspective. So a couple of the suggestions that I brought for this month. One is to elicit a friend, because I'm telling you what, we are going into, it's like a 6-week cycle. And it's like going all the way down into the underworld, looking at the underbelly of all of our stuff, rubbing up against the sandpaper of all of it to soften and release our edges, right? And so this started a couple weeks ago, and it's going to go into, a week or so into July. So it really holds the entirety of the month. And like I said, the midpoint is June 10. And usually by the midpoint, this comes from Robert Ohato's work, who I've been a student of for, I don't know, a decade or something. But he always talks about this midpoint, that at the midpoint is around when you should start getting the lesson that's part of this Mercury retrograde cycle. And then the other half of it, you start to see where it's playing out in your life, and you can start to unpack it. So eliciting a friend, because you're going to need, you're going to need a wing woman right now to be able to get through this, like someone that you can call and just say, holy shit, are you feeling this? And, all of that. And this reminds me of something I wrote in a blog, is that, part of this, the tear down of the house, of the home of who we are, is to get us to really be clear about what is vital to us. Like, what do we actually care about? What is important? And it's like you're going into the house and grabbing those things before the tornado comes. And what I said in the blog is, it better be very few things, because you're not going to be able to carry much. So it's about getting into the roots and, the minerals of, like, not even who you think you are, but what you actually care about right now on the ground in this moment. And so that's the, eliciting a friend. There's like this sense of, get a wing woman and, have somebody to kind of go back and forth around with this kind of territory. The second thing is chanting, which is a form of breath work that I love. The chant that I would suggest is Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. It's a green Tara chant, and it means I release my addiction to suffering. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Maybe I'll do a longer video so you can kind of hear that and get it in your bones. I love to use this chant when I'm going hiking, and I just say it out loud. I don't give a shit who's around, And the third thing is sweating. There's a thing about getting into the physical body right now. There's so much happening in the etheric plane. There's so much happening to our energetic system as we're shifting, upgrading, dropping off, downloading up, like all these different things. It's like our whole computer system is going through a massive, system upgrade and reboot and the whole thing. And so the more that we can bring ourselves into our physical body, the better, because it's going to be like a cord that keeps us anchored here to earth while all of this stuff is going around, on the etheric plane. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention the oil of the month is ylang ylang. I forgot to write down any of the info from the Essential Emotions book, but I'll give you just a quick boilerplate about what that is around. So the ylang ylang is the energy of the inner child. It's for heartbreak. It's for everything to do with the heart, shifting, letting go, expanding, contracting, all the different things and opening up. And so it's really a great oil for this tender-hearted place, because I feel like over the next month, I've already been experiencing it myself. There's going to be like a wave of meltdowns that come through where you're like face down on the ground, just like having been tripped by the tripwire of life, the tripwire of Mercury retrograde, all the things that you think, you fall flat on your face. And then once you're lying there is like the only time when you're really willing to go, oh, can I look at it a different way? So when you're down, they're like, there's this tender-hearted part about that. There's a wounding, there's a heartbreak. And when you have to question the deep-rooted beliefs that are so deep in there that you think that they actually are who you are, when you start letting go of those things, man, the core wounding is just going to come right on out of the walls. So I have a feeling that there's going to be several layers of meltdown, breakdown to breakthrough, as Brené Brown talks about, that is laden in all of this. So I recommend placing it on the back of the heart if you can get someone to apply it on the back of your heart. And then the other recommendation is just to diffuse the hell out of it, because you want to get it in your lungs. Grief is stored in the lungs, so it will help you lift and remove some of that. So like I said, Young Living as of June 1, if you want to come over and check that out, because ylang ylang is a classic single oil. There's no proprietary oil that you have to get from either one. And I'll put a link to, as soon as I have my account set up, I will put a link in my Instagram bio for my Young Living link page, so you can go there and sign up and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, the Judge, like, could this not be more like polarized, defined? You've got like the 4 directions, you've got the black and white, you've got the, the hands reaching out up and out. I mean, literally, you can't make this shit up. Okay, and I open right to the page. This is fantastic. Okay, the critic, the diplomat, the advocate. The Judge has an incredibly important job. They work every waking hour of every day, helping us discern what is safe, true, and just. This discernment, the discipline, all of this is like where we are. When this archetype remains unconscious or is captivated by fear, wise discernment turns into painful judgment of self and others, right? So when we're not using clear discernment and we want to do that labeling, which is like judging yourself or others, then you're just going to be tripping up over your own ego, because you're so desperate to know a thing, to label it so that you can put it off to the side and not think about it anymore. It's like you're not, at that point, you're not even relating to life anymore. Ironically, the Judge's energy can be the seed of racism, bigotry, and fear-mongering. So this is really interesting, because there's so much polarization that we think we're on one side or the other of that, but that polarization is actually the seed energy. I mean, that's what this card is saying. It's the seed energy of the creation of all those things. So you might think that you're labeling a thing so that you can help open it up and not judge it. But in doing the labeling, you are judging it. So it's this sort of backwards thing. Okay, this is the Judge out of balance, building walls, separating from others. That is what labeling does. So you might think, again, like you're labeling something to give it space to move, but you're actually suffocating it and keeping it in place. When this same discerning force is made conscious and healed, however, the Judge may be found advocating for civil rights causes, standing up for the underdog, providing resources for those in need, and forgiving again and again. Oh, sweet Jesus, that forgiving energy. I feel like this is going to be present. That's why the ylang ylang is like, because when the heartbreak comes in, there's like a level of not only forgiving others, but even more than that, like forgiving ourselves for labeling, for judging, for positioning, for being on one side or the other, and for limiting ourselves in that. Love is the deciding factor. Awakening this archetype is essential for the complex times we are in. Well, I mean, this was written definitely a year before COVID, so it's only gotten more intense. Get your Judge in order. The world needs it. When light, discernment, advocacy, right action, compassion. When dark, critical, punishing, unforgiving, wall building. To go deeper, Osiris and the white feather of Mot. The Judge's energy is contagious. When we feel judged, walls go up all around. Similarly, when we feel accepted, the entire world softens. I mean, and isn't that so true? Like the moment that you feel someone judging you, it's like you're just out. Like you can't hear a single thing that they're saying anymore. But when you feel accepted, when it's like, oh, wow, you know, there's curiosity. Oh, you feel that way? Oh, tell me more. What's that about? It opens up the whole thing. Gandhi had an incredibly illuminated inner judge. He was a lawyer. He practiced silence 1 day a week in order to hone his discernment while on his revolutionary path. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can't get any more clear. I mean, seriously. So, loving you and yours. I mean, good luck with this whole territory. I'm telling you what, I've already been like on the ground in it myself, and we're not even to June 1st. So, best of luck to you. I'm also in a space of regenerating my offerings and like looking at my work and going, okay, you know, I love doing these videos. I love leaning in. I love connecting with the community, but I want more. I want more of like, you know, a back and forth. I want more of connection here, which I'm absolutely getting in my mentorship program. I friggin' love it. And if you were interested and you missed out, I'm taking people for the wait list now for next year, because I think I'm absolutely going to redo, you know, offer it again. But I'm wanting more of that. So if you have ideas, if you're a follower of mine and you're like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, you know, shoot me a message and let me know. I'm looking into podcast. I also have in my vision at some point to make an Oracle deck, all kinds of stuff. So things are coming and brewing, but it's like, you know, that's even like part of the ego is like, I wanted it all to happen yesterday, and I have to be patient for when the right timing comes, when the inspiration comes, when it's ready, like, you know. And I want to point us back before I'm done here to the energy of space. When we're in this Mercury retrograde and, you know, the breakdown to breakthrough time is like, it's not really the best time to make decisions and to, you know, make changes. Like, I mean, this whole doTERRA Young Living thing is like not the best time. You know, if I had known, I would have done it 3 months ago, and then I'd already be halfway into my 6-month break. But you know, it is what it is. Like sometimes you have to do things. Sometimes you have to get the new computer in the middle of Mercury retrograde, and that's just what it is. You know, that's another thing that's coming up for me. But you know, give yourself the space to just kind of let it all hang out. Like a friend of mine, my friend Sherry, you'd love you, my dear sweet goddess, if you're watching. She's always talking about like letting the bits dangle, letting all the like uncomfortable bits about ourselves dangle and just hang there. And it's like we have to give ourselves space over the next month definitely to do that, because you have to let it lay there. You have to let it rest in order to learn more about it. It's almost like you're letting those labels, you know, you're letting the tulips rest so that they can become, you know, this other thing, so that they can be a sign from spirit guiding you towards your next thing, whatever it is, you know. So there's that. Much love. Do I remember off the top of my head the dates for the moon ceremonies this month? I know that the new moon is on June 10th. And the full moon, I want to say it's on the 26th again this month. But anyways, you can find that in the link in my bio or on my website under events. So much love, wishing you and yours the best. Find a friend, hang on tight. Don't be too hard on yourself. Take naps, be in nature, be in water, do the chanting, and it's all going to be okay. But you're going to think it's not before you think it is, before you know that it is, right? All right. Love you. Namaste.